Hi guys, welcome back to another one of my videos. 2 videos in one day. What's going on? I thought I had no energy today, but my first video kind of revved me up and actually made me want to talk about something a little bit, well, I think the other video was serious, but this is a little bit more closer to my heart, and it's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. As you know, everybody knows that you go on Facebook and you see Save the Children everywhere. Save our children, save our children. And when I see it, I do spread the hashtag because awareness is so very important. But here's the thing, guys. Saving our children starts with you. It starts at home. For those of you that have children, I can't stress this enough to you, but it really starts at home, making sure that they have awareness of themselves, of their body, of their surroundings. So, they don't, also, I don't really like the idea of instilling fear into them about the situation, but being aware of their environment and you being aware as well. Everybody is talking about, pedophiles, but not a lot of people are talking about the people who allow that type of behavior to continue. And I mean, like, every mom who doesn't listen to her daughter, every mom who leaves her kid with like some random guy or like even her boyfriend, or letting family members come around that aren't appropriate. Protecting your children and teaching them the right way, setting a good example. So, I obviously have turmoils and troubles in my life, especially in my marriage when we were younger, and not too far off. But, I always really try to make sure that my kids knew that they were loved. However, I don't think that they always felt safe. And that's not because I was beating them or anything like that. That's not the case. But because me and my husband weren't treating each other in an appropriate way, and we were fighting all the time and yelling at each other, we weren't setting a good example to our children of how you should treat other people. We weren't setting a good example of being good a husband and wife. We weren't making them feel secure in their home because they were always thinking that we were getting divorced. So even though they felt loved, they didn't always feel safe. And so that's one thing that, we've really had to work on lately is, that bond. And, actually, I thought it was going to be a lot harder to instill some of these things in my kids, but guess what? I changed my behavior, and kids are freaking resilient, and they changed their behavior. They started changing the way that they looked at things. And, I noticed my son wasn't, not saying that he was depressed before, but as withdrawn as he used to be, or a little bit more, less angry than he used to be. Also, because of my healthy habits and my routines and my practices, my kids have also picked up these routines and practices. We get up every morning, we do yoga, we meditate, we get the chores done, and usually there's not very many of them anymore because we've already been, cleaning as we go. After dinner, everybody, hands out. I make dinner, the kids help clean up, and it's all nice and tidy, so in the morning there's not a whole lot of chores anymore. When we first started it, there was more chores, but now it's a lot less. And they realize that too. They're like, oh wow, if I clean as I go, or if I do these things on a regular basis, then they become less of a chore because they're mostly taken care of, and the house stays nice and clean. Also, I really stress to them about how important they are. I respect my children, even though they're children, because they are people. And they have emotions and feelings that need to be expressed and realized and acknowledged. I used to do the reward and punishment thing because that's all that I've heard of or knew. And that really never worked. The only time that works is if you don't have a reward to get them, then what's their motivation for doing anything? Nothing. But one of the things that my son wasn't brushing his teeth. And I used to be like, you need to brush your teeth. Go in there and brush your teeth. Why haven't you brushed? Always. And he was constantly not doing it. And so it was draining my energy by having to yell at him every single day to brush your teeth. Well, I changed because I realized that, he's important. And I want him to feel that he's an important person. So I kind of went at it a little bit differently. And I started asking him, do you think you're important? And he, thought about it. He's, well, yeah. I go, I think you're important. You're important to me. I go, that means that your body's important and taking care of yourself is important. So every time that you're brushing your teeth, it's a sign that you're showing yourself that you appreciate your body, and you're taking care of yourself because you are important. Guess what? Kid brushes his teeth twice a day. I don't have to say anything to him anymore about it. Heck, like it's a reminder for me to brush my teeth twice a day. Sometimes like I only brush them in the morning and I forget at night. But you know, my kid is a great example of how like you can change. And you know, instead of like yelling at your kids all the time, calling them bad names, like I literally got chewed out by a mom group one time when I first started realizing how important words are. It was like a mommy and me group on Facebook, and this mom was on there saying, oh my God, my kid is such an asshole. You know, my son, her 8-year-old son, my son is such an asshole. You know, my daughter, she like is not this way and she does everything, blah, 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 but my son is just a pain in the ass. And I went on there and opened my mouth and said, hey, you know, maybe you should change your words when you're describing your son and you're talking to him. And, you know, maybe you shouldn't call him an asshole. And all these women are like, you're so judgmental and we're allowed to call our kids assholes if we want to. And that's what they're acting like. That's what we're going to call them. And I'm like, wow, dude, that's great, because now there's going to be a whole lot of assholes in the future. This is great. So I just let it be. I'm like, okay, I'm out. But what you don't realize is even if you have two different children and they're reacting differently to a situation, one might be acting out that's very apparent that he's doing something bad. The other child might be doing everything right. That's another sign that there's like some kind of dysfunction in the home. If a child is overly good, if they're overly like trying to get really good grades in school, if they're trying to help out excessively, it's because that child is a helper and a fixer and they want the conflict or whatever is going on in the house to stop. And they think that by being the perfect example that they can do that. They think they have the power to do that. And when they don't, that could be really devastating later on in life. And then for the other child is going to get the opposite. They're going to get, you know, all this stuff spewed at them. Oh, you're not acting right. Oh, you're not being right. Oh, you're, you're a bad person, or, you're a little asshole. And then they're going to be trained to be like, oh my gosh, I am an asshole. They're going to grow up and guess what? They're going to be an asshole. And they're going to be an abuser, and they're going to hurt people, and they might have control issues. They might turn into a fucking pedophile. You don't know. So what I'm saying, guys, if you really want to save your children, you need to start at home. You need to start with yourself, especially if you have kids. You are a reflection. They're a reflection of you. So if you're not acting right, there's no way your children are going to be acting right. And, I don't mean by acting right by like not expressing your emotions, because that's like one of the big problems is that we're not letting our children express themselves when they need to. Emotions, if they're not expressed appropriately, they get held inside or they come out in very, bad ways, and they manifest to like all these issues in the moment or later on down the road. So they need to be acknowledged that their feelings matter. But then you need to find out like why they're feeling that way and encourage them with like positive words and telling them that they're worth it and telling them that the reason they do need to take care of themselves and other people is because they respect themselves. So like when my kids fight with each other, like you would normally think, well, whose fault is it? No, if you are fighting with somebody else, then you need to take responsibility for your part in it, regardless of who started it, because we all have a choice. If somebody says something to you, you have every right to feel bad about it, but the way you react to it makes the biggest difference in the world. And I know that from personal experience, guys. Like, I used to be extremely reactive, extremely angry, like so out of control sometimes when people would challenge me, because I just couldn't, fathom like anything else but my own brain being right or being correct or being in control. And that hurt me so intensely for so many years. And I really saw, that starting to happen with my kids. And, now that we are starting to change our behaviors and the way we talk to each other and the way that we take care of the house and each other, like my son actually came to me, and we had coronavirus and we're quarantined and the world is ending, right? But he came to me and he said, Mom, I've never been happier living here with you guys than I have been in my whole life. That's gonna make me cry, because it is so important to me. Like, I've always tried to make them feel loved, but I didn't realize how I was making them feel unsafe. And now for them to come to me and tell me like how much that they love their life and how much they appreciate me and their dad and each other. Do they always get along? No. But that's natural, and that's part of growing up and dealing with conflict and figuring out ways to deal with conflict in a positive way. So I just want to leave you with that, guys. Like, again, if you really want to save the children, Start at home, start educating them, start making them more aware, turn them into the people you want to see in our future. You know, be the people, be the change. You know what I mean? Instead of going on Facebook and bitching about all the horrible negative people, be the good person. Be the bigger person, not the bigger person, but be that positive energy that you want to see in the world. And I guarantee you guys, your life is going to be better for it. Anyways, I love you guys. See you next time. Bye. All right, guys, I just had to add this because it's so true and so funny to me. So I just got done with my video and I go into the living room and my son's like, you know what? There's just one thing. You told people not to hang out with their weird family members. I totally think my brother is weird, but I would never not want to hang out with him. And I'm like, no, you're not getting the point, my son. And so like I started kind of like, you know, arguing with him a little bit, and I'm like realizing that like I'm trying to like prove a point and trying to be right, and like my son is trying to school me on some education. And I actually think it's funny because one of the things that I think about my kids is that they're my biggest teachers. They teach me the most patience. They teach me the most kindness. They make me laugh like nobody's business. And so I just want you to think, you know, about your children maybe being that way and, you know, kind of teaching you life lessons. You always think it's the other way around, but let me tell you, sometimes it's just not. I love those kids. Bye, guys.